What's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture. I am Matt Aguilar here, and you're probably going, hey, where's Kofi? Hey, he's right there. Hey, right there. Happy Comic-Con week. Kofi is on location at Comic-Con, covering all the big things. You've already seen multiple stories. He's got all kinds of things going the rest of the weekend as well. But hello from afar, sir.
What's up, Comic Book Nation? I am indeed out here at Comic-Con in my hotel with hotel Wi-Fi, so we'll see how this goes. But I am in the Hard Rock Hotel right in the Gaslamp district of San Diego, and outside my window is the convention center right across the street. And I can tell you they are already gearing up out here today to get wild. And yeah, it's already kind of a crazy con, but some other crazy things are happening in and around the con, as our guest today, Evan Valentine from Anime Initiative, our other Comic Book Nation segment, is with us. And he and I had to get in on the other big thing happening on this week, this little film called Deadpool and Wolverine dropping. So
yes,
I went and saw Deadpool last night around after midnight. And yeah, like I was tweeting out, I have some very sleepless thoughts to share with you guys.
Oh, man. Well, of course, covering it all from here and from remotely is, of course, Janelle Wheeler, me, Matthew Aguilar, and Evan Valentine. Thank you all for jumping on the show today. We got tons to cover, but yes, we're going to start with the big one that we are going to, by the way, just got to come out here and say this. We are doing a non-spoiler review. However, if you have remained non-spoiled, kudos to you, because that is an increasingly difficult thing to do. So go out. If you really want to stay away from them, go out and see this thing ASAP, please, because yeah, good luck if you really want to do it. I've spoiled the movie already for myself before even seeing it, just because I wanted to get ahead of it. so I'm good. I'm set.
No.
Yes. So let's start here, because yes, Kofi and Evan are the two people who have seen this. Me and Janelle haven't seen this quite yet. Guys, what I've seen all kinds of things from this is the Marvel movie we've been waiting for. This is the revival of the MCU. And then I've seen it's fine. it's okay. Like, you know, it's a little light here in this, but it's still fun. So where do you sit on that barometer? Like, is this a savior, or is this just like a really good Marvel movie? Where are you guys?
Kofi, you go first. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, you muted, buddy.
Oh,
did I mute myself? All right, I'm muting myself.
Yes.
Doing well. I was saying I saw this in the middle of the night, so let's just put that caveat out here. I mean, I went to parties, I worked all day, and then I went because the streets of San Diego were flooding with spoilers when Hall H let out and people were abuzz all over the place. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I avoided spoilers except for Variety. Shout out to Variety for spoiling a huge part of this movie when I was just trying to get review quotes. So yeah, I had to hop an Uber and go out into the night of San Diego and find a theater and go get this done. So here's what I'll say. You know, Deadpool and Wolverine definitely delivers what it promised for us. This is a real Marvel multiversal adventure. It is Deadpool satire and meta satire to a T. It's actually, thanks to Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds in this flow they're on, there's actually a story here with some mechanics that have real stakes and take the character of Wolverine Logan and put him in a place of importance that kind of resonates with Hugh Jackman as a person of importance in this genre. And it does everything it delivered on. What I will say is, you know, this is the best execution I've seen so far of the Marvel multiversal concept. But even then, it still kind of makes me wonder if this chapter has any real deeper merit to it, because it's a lot of it that just still feels like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme in motion. Just sit up and go, ooh, 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 ooh. And I'm in this weird place because, you know, it's supposed to make you look back on these comic book movies, the good or, no matter how good or bad, and just enjoy the time we had and doing this. But in the weeks leading up to this, I've seen these old X-Men movies playing, the Fox movies playing. There's one on TV next to me right now. Days of Future Past is on. And yeah, Days of Future Past is dope, but it's actually made me like realize like I'm kind of forcing me to grow up a little bit and look back. And I even watched X2 yesterday, and I was like, really? Like, oh man, like I was so hyped about this movie for so long, and I'm rewatching it, and I'm like, this is silly as hell. Like, yeah, I'm like, it really is kind of silly as hell with Alan Cummins and the fingers and the anyway. And so I was just like, all right, maybe I'm growing up here, and that's okay. But yeah, going to see Deadpool and Wolverine, it's still kind of just like, it's still a little silly. It's still like, even when you see things you think you've wanted to see for so long, you see them, but you're like, yeah, but this is kind of silly still. Like, yeah, if we had, there's like, they gave us a lot of things you've talked about for years. There's a lot of things like fans have said, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could see, this? And they give you little tastes of this throughout the movie. But when you see it, you're like, okay, well, maybe it was a little silly if we get these things. And so, yeah, I don't know if it makes the MCU come back for me. If anything, I'm kind of worried that this was just a marker for me that, like, yeah, I may have to do some growing up and move on and do other things with my cinematic life besides come back and keep playing this, because there are still beats of this that inevitably feel familiar like a Marvel movie, even though it's making fun of Marvel movies. We still get 3 acts. We still get, this third act kind of thing that and yeah, it doesn't. I'm trying to be very careful how I describe this.
Yeah.
It does a lot. It doesn't still feel like it's such a game-changing chapter of the multiverse saga that I'm like, oh no, we back in the game now. Like, this movie, enjoyable. The rest of this franchise, for me, still question mark at this point. So that's where I'm at. Okay, I think I got through a lot of that without saying anything too crazy or spoiling anything for anybody. Now it's your turn. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, number one, I'm never gonna grow up, so I'm just gonna.
You think you can just be a Toys R Us kid? You think you can be a Toys R Us kid?
I'm just gonna be a Toys R Us kid forever.
You think you can have a million
Toys R Us just came back, baby, for the 8th time.
What, you think you can get the bikes, the trains, and the video games?
Yeah, for sure. That's always gonna happen. For me personally, does this bring back the MCU? Yes. For me, it totally does. I thought that there was a lot of, and one of the things that this movie is able to do, because I thought about this a lot before coming on the show, which was effectively, and obviously everybody else on the show really gets this feeling, and I really respect, like, I think Kofi's spot on in a lot of cases, because he's coming at this from more of a without putting words in his mouth, like, looking at this as a as more of like kind of a film critic, as more of like a when you're looking at it as its own kind of movie. The way that I kind of looked at it was more of like when I see all the stuff that they kind of put in the movie without obviously touching upon any of it, it is stuff that I've been waiting for and that a lot of comic book fans have been waiting for decades, and I think that they nail it perfectly. I think that there are so many parts of this movie where they are able to do things that I originally didn't see coming, that, like, in our profession, it is impossible to avoid spoilers. And there was a lot of stuff that really threw me for a loop. I think that when it comes to looking at this, it is not a perfect movie. I think I will totally agree on that. I had some problems when it came to, it is very, very, there is so much happening in this movie. Like, if I were to rank this in terms of like previous Deadpool films, number 1 is still my favorite. I think that Deadpool and Wolverine is better than part 2, but I also think that this is such a crowd-pleasing film, that this has so many beats that I hadn't seen since kind of like Endgame. There is a moment in this that I was telling everybody after I got out of the theater, because luckily I didn't see this last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I saw this on Monday night, where I was able to kind of percolate on it and think about it and kind of think about my thoughts. there is one scene in this movie. It's in Act 3, and it is the equivalent of Captain America picking up Thor's hammer in Endgame for me personally. And I thought that like that kind of energy, that love of like the nerdy stuff and the Marvel collective as a whole, that really resonated. And I think that capturing that aesthetic, capturing that energy of what has made the Marvel Cinematic Universe so great in general over the years, that was lacking in a lot of projects that have come before recently. But I think that Deadpool and Wolverine has been able to capture that. And I think at the end of the day, this movie does have problems, but those are far outweighed by just the general positives that I saw in this movie. There's so many funny things that happen, so many great nods to the Fox universe, the Fox Marvel verse, as it were. And I think that it also works in a way of kind of saying goodbye to those. It's a nice love letter to what those movies were. And so yeah, it's that's a lot of my thoughts on the matter.
All right. I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, I can't say anything bad. I know that I was in a theater. I was in a pretty packed theater, and I know that a lot of this hit. There is so much in this movie. I think I need to see it a second time just to get. Like, I was just looking over the IMDb or the Wikipedia page, which kind of has now, it's all filled in with spoilers, so don't go there if you haven't seen it, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there were things in there and people in there that I don't even think I picked up on. I was like, oh, really? I was like, that's what was that going on there? And so, like, yeah, there's so much going on in this movie. Oh man, I'm trying to like get into what I can say without spoiling anything. It's really tough. I will say that Emma Corrin was really good. Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova is she's a scary little lady, and you know, I think she did a really good job bringing kind of Cassandra Nova to life and doing that. We were talking before the show about Matthew McFadden being Tom Wisegam's TVA Tom, we call him now, but you know, great job. The casting wasn't, you know, that wasn't revolutionary casting, but he did a good job, and he is such a good, like, smarmy Weasley kind of villain, and so that we did have good villains in this, and there was, like you said, there was actual good stories, and you know, I was kind of just. I mean, I've been down on some of it, like acting like I never nerded out or murked out at anything in this, but there were some things that happened in this movie that I sat up in a good way, because I was, you know, you got to imagine I was pretty tired, but I definitely sat up and was like, oh, okay, like something, that happened, and I was like, wow. There are certain surprises that I am shocked that we got away with nobody putting out there in any kind of fashion. And so, yeah, there were some good things in here. I think I might just be still too jaded. Like, I still need, and people in the comments were saying this. Let's see, because shout out to the commenters. We are a live show today. Brywood was our longtime fan. Brywood, you know, he said they really needed MCU content about the future. Great swan song for the Fox X-Men universe, but minimal future implications. And there's a certain amount of that's true. We are kind of, I'm doing the article about what this does for the X-Men reboot, but it definitely, it is more standalone and end of something than it is beginning of something in a lot of ways. Yeah. So I still think for me to say, you know, we're so back about the MCU, I need something bigger than just this movie. Yeah, it's really going to hinge, because I saw they played the trailer, of course, before the movie started for Captain America, and it was the first time I got to see it in like an IMAX screen, and it looked pretty good. So I think that's going to be the film. I think we all said it was this, but that's really going to be the film that puts us back full-fledged into the big shared sandbox of the MCU and makes it and kind of makes a case of whether we can truly get back to business here. And so this was good for that Fox X-Men universe. But like I said, rewatching all of these over the last weeks, we got Days of Future Past. That's about the only one of those, and some of First Class, a lot of First Class, actually. First Class to Days of Future Past is pretty much all I would hold on to, besides Deadpool itself. And, you know, well, now my list is growing because the Wolverine and Logan are still
Logan,
dope as hell.
yeah. Mhm.
So, yeah. But a lot of it was definitely the building blocks to get us to the era that we are in now. And when you look back at those leather suits, are funny as hell, man. When you see Hugh Jackman,
We need to
young-ass Hugh
revisit
Jackman
that
running around in
discussion
black leather.
because I remember not too long ago we got into an argument on the show about how many of those movies we were holding on to, and I got lambasted.
Oh yeah, no, we
for
definitely
saying
did.
like 4 of them, maybe. That's generous. And I was like, no.
Right,
Everyone
yeah,
was like, oh, there's so many
no.
great ones.
Oh,
I
I do remember
think
that. I was an apologist for it. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, they were still good times. No, I rewatched a lot of that stuff now. I'm like, oh man, I opened my mouth.
I think that
I'm sorry,
First Class is kind of a sleeping giant because I also kind
like
of
First
rewatched
Class.
some of the old ones. But like right before Deadpool and Wolverine, I rewatched Logan, and Logan is still amazing. It's still like it's a movie that
it's
like,
not going anywhere.
holds up. Yeah, it holds up on its own. Still absolutely fantastic story. Easily, arguably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, if not the best. Ask me on a specific day. But First Class also kind of does a really good job of like being its own kind of thing. There's so many amazing moments in that movie in general. But I also wanted to piggyback on Kofi kind of when it comes to some of the negatives of the movie. I kind of mentioned it a little bit, and again, we're kind of dodging spoilers. I think that one of the biggest negatives for me was the idea that this isn't as much of a Deadpool movie as I would like. And what I mean by that is, of course, like Ryan Reynolds is front and center, but because of the fact that we are focusing so much on Wolverine and the multiverse and the Deadpool core and all these other different moving pieces, we lose Dopinder, we lose Colossus, we lose Vanessa in a way. And there was kind of some aspects of Wade's character that I thought kind of got lost in the shuffle in terms of like his growth as a character, which is why I kind of mentioned that like Deadpool 1 is still my favorite, because I thought that it kind of had this amazing balance of like, of course, like fourth wall breaking stuff on top of like the seriousness of Wade's character in general. And I think that like when you have, obviously you're introducing this new version of Logan, and you have to like what made this character what he is in Deadpool and Wolverine versus like what he was in the original when he was wearing the black leather versus, you know, who he was in Logan and all that other stuff. So it is a movie that like if I were to rate it like a solid like B plus, like I think that there are, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like an A plus. We'll see. I think that like this is very much a situation of like a perfect comparison is that it's like Spider-Man No Way Home, where it is effectively like there's a lot of the strengths that Deadpool and Wolverine has that were similar to Spider-Man No Way Home, and I think that there are a lot of weaknesses that it shares with that. We'll see the test of time. I remember that like over time I felt that No Way Home kind of got, you know, more of its flaws became apparent. So we'll see if like, you know, obviously I'm riding off the highs of some of the big reveals and everything like that. But, you know, we'll kind of see moving forward. Like if I kind of ask me again in a year,
wow, boy, Peter came out swinging on that one.
Weaknesses. Oh, we'll have a discussion on that one. But
boy, there's an unplanned grenade. You never know where they're gonna come from.
Oh, we get into it, but I think I'm gonna be the opposite. Weirdly enough, I think with time, when the hype around this and all the noise and the Comic-Con of it all, when it all dies down, and I actually just get to sit in a room and watch this movie. Because I think there are two layers to this movie. There's obviously the meta layer about all the Fox stuff and all the cameos and stuff that go with all of that. But there is an actual story, because I had to go back and read Wikipedia this morning because I was like, wait, what was the actual story of this movie?
That's always a good sign.
But it's hard to maintain in your head because moment to moment you're going on this road trip where you're like stop and you're like, oh wait, oh my god, there's this, that, and the other, and then there's this, that, and the other, and then they're referencing this, that, and the other, and you're like, oh wait, there's an actual plot here. And the actual dynamics of the story are actually pretty pivotal. They actually do some pretty significant things for the Multiverse Saga storyline. But you really got to be listening and kind of pay attention to what that is, because it doesn't weigh down the actual story we're telling in front of us. But they do say some words and drop some terms and do some things that when you go back and read them, you're like, oh, wait, this is kind of important to this whole thing. So read comicbook.com today on our Marvel section, because we will be explaining it all to you. So I think with time, I'm actually going to go back and look at the actual self-contained story of the movie and feel some other kind of way about it. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's too noisy right now. Too noisy.
Oh, well,
all right.
I
That's
know
it for me.
we got to get Evan out of here. We got to get Evan out of here because he's got to go cover some anime, and he's busy as anything. There's so many things cooking on the site. But Evan, thank you so much for jumping on here and talking with us. And of course, as more and more people see this movie, please hit Kofi and Evan up on Twitter and tell them what you think. Tell them which one you sided with. Thanks so much, buddy.
Oh yeah, thanks. And yeah, be sure to hit me up so I can tell you that you're wrong or agree with you. Who knows? It depends on
bring up Spider-Man No Way Home, it seems.
Yeah. let's talk about that. Thank you so much, guys.
Amazing. All right, let's move into, actually, this is somewhat tangentially related, at least in vibe and tone. Kite Man, hell yeah. You have to say it like that, by the way. Hell yeah. You got to say it. That is out on HBO Max. We cannot ignore the DC Harley Quinn universe here. And I wanted to give this show some love because, number one, it's Kite Man. And Kite Man deserves some love. And Janelle, I know you are. This is like, I feel like this pocket of the DC universe is one of your faves. And we really get to dip into some fun things here, especially with like Harley and Ivy and things. The first 3 episodes are out, so this is only obviously talking about those first 3 episodes. Mild spoilers coming, but again, this show is not really. This is not Deadpool Wolverine, okay? This is not like going to be this kind of spoilery thing. Janelle, how you feeling about this this kind of spin-off series and about the character who, and honestly, Kite Man and Golden Glider, this show should be called their show. Like it really should be called that because it's really about them as a couple. But what are you feeling?
I mean, it's the same vibe as, our Harley Quinn that we love. And if you love that, then you're going to love this. And Golden Glider's awesome. And I think they've just done a heck of a job. They obviously have like appearances you can see from this trailer that's running. If you're listening, there are appearances from Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. So, you're kind of like in your comfort zone. And if you are a fan of that other show, like this is a no-brainer. Like definitely watch it. It's to me, it's like, it feels like the exact same thing, just highlighting someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's so sad, though.
I do feel so bad for him.
Like, it's so much sadder than Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn's like an empowerment show. And this one's like, it's just like how Kite Man is just he's trying to be like somebody, and like everybody, the ways that they get him in this show. Because I watched the first episode. The ways that they get him in this, just like, and why they need him, and like all that whole thing is just,
his relationship with his father.
I don't know. Maybe I need to complete this arc of therapy, but it's just like, he's like, hey, I just want to be friends, guys. Like, hey, yeah, and they're just like, we need a guy who's just gonna float. Like everybody else is busy. You're gonna come and do this.
And the reason is, again, hilarious. Oh my god, the club meeting and like of all the flyers. Just like, oh my god, I could watch a whole show just about them meeting around the table.
Yep.
If you and Anissa ever become supervillains, I feel like you two would be. This would be you two. This show. Like she's Golden Glider to your Kite Man. Yeah.
So true though. It really is true because like there's some great scenes between them, but I can absolutely see that. Like he's sitting there dejected at the bar and he's talking about his like lack of powers and she's like, "Oh, sweetie. It's okay. You don't have to have superpowers to be a supervillain."
Come
There's
on,
so many
babe.
little
Let's get-
moments.
Great, babe.
So good.
Yeah. Oh man.
But I agree with you though. I do think this is more of a like there is a bit of like, oh man, like he gets beaten down verbally just so many times by everybody and their brother, and there is a little bit of like there's a moroseness to that, you just kind of feel like, oh man, it does again endear you to a degree, and then there's also times where he completely justifies some of the opinions, like that whole conversation with his dad. And he's asking for money. Aww. And then he's like, no, that's a bad investment. And while the execution of what his dad is saying is terrible and awful, he also then goes, well, I'm not really a money person. And you're like, dude, this is the point. This is the problem. You're kind of your own worst enemy in a degree. I will say, though, in the second episode, there's a whole riff with this cat that you've seen in the trailer. There's a whole riff, though, where she's talking about they're talking about what take care of that means. And it's this back and forth banter like, oh, what did you think I meant when I said take care of that? And she's like, oh, like I thought I took your nephew to the Six Flags. And he's like, I gotta go take care of and I laughed. I cackled for like at least 8 minutes on that joke by itself. I just thought that was like, there's so many little moments like that in this show. This plays out more like a sitcom. Like this would be at home, like on CBS or NBC or something, about a sitcom of two supervillains buying a bar. Like that's what this feels like. And it's great. It's fun. I dig it.
Yeah, this is definitely up your alley. I can see it.
The show's kind of made for me. All right, let's move into some Comic-Con news. There's something that just broke a couple minutes ago in the fact that tomorrow we will get our Penguin trailer. That is coming tomorrow. Yes, cannot wait for that. Colin Farrell just revealed that little bit of news there, so it sucks that it's not, right now as the show's happening, so we can all talk about it. But hey, at least you heard it here first, right? Let's move into some things that they did show off during Comic-Con. Transformers 1 got a brand new trailer. If anyone remembers, I was pretty high on the first Transformers 1 trailer, which kind of focused on a little bit of like the lightheartedness and the comedy and the kind of this friendship between Megatron and Optimus before they were those two characters. But this one dives into kind of some of the macro level stuff, the kind of overarching journey that they make. We're getting hints of really like that Megatron Optimus, like where that divide happens and how that kind of emotionally plays out between the two characters. And then we also get like sick looking action. Like there's a moment with RC that just like or Lita 1, sorry, that just like rules as that like coming through the glass and driving right. It looks the action looks super stylish. And then we also get just like lighthearted moments. Keegan-Michael Key just killing it at the end there, talking about how everyone has Wave in their names. There's just I think it's just a really great mix. I've seen some early reactions comparing this to the 80s original. That is high praise. I'm going to have to wait to see if that actually meets that bar, because when you start talking that movie, you're talking like all-time classic stuff. However, that is a good sign that is at least in the discussion. So I was really feeling this trailer. I think this is kind of just like a fantastic revival for this new generation of Transformers fans. It's looking really promising. How do you guys feel about this?
I'm short. This is first time I saw this, I was like, what the hell are we doing? And somehow this keeps growing on me. I don't know why. I guess they just keep repeating it to me like over and over again until I'm just wearing me down. But it's growing on me. I kind of just want to see something new from Transformers, and this looks like that. So it's kind of growing on me weirdly. But at first, it was the voices. The voices were they threw me for a loop so much because I'm so programmed as an 80s kid to hearing these certain voices for these characters. But once I got over that, I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
Janelle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super interested in this, but I can see why folks
Killing me
would be. And like I think that the story is really entertaining. Like it seems like a really cool story to be told, just based on this trailer. And so I think that it looks entertaining if this is something you're into, but this is not something that I would go out of my way to check out. Um, but if we are going to cover it on the podcast, I'm your girl. I'll do whatever, and I will watch it for everyone and let you know my
Yay!
thoughts. But I'm glad I watched the trailer because like I said, I think the storyline seems pretty interesting, and obviously, I feel like the storyline has been done many times, but it's cool to see it from this perspective, from like the Transformer perspective.
Well, moving
Yeah,
into
I
another
mean,
trailer that oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is, I hoping that, as somebody who's the parent of a 6-year-old boy, I feel like this is
Mhm.
the gateway for him into Transformers more so than
Totally is.
anything else. And I hope it does for him with Transformers what TMNT Mutant Mayhem did for him for Turtles. Like,
Yes.
because that did a good job of getting him into Turtles. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, this
agree
is
with
going to
that
work for him.
sentiment. Yeah, I think that's a perfect. I'm looking. We've had like Ember has kind of found her entryway into like Sonic. I mean, My Little Pony, Garfield, right? With some of these movies that have been coming out and new shows. But then as far as like on kind of my fandom side, X-Men 97 was her entry point for X-Men. She's a fan of the X-Men characters now because of that show, even though I had to hide some of the, really like brutal ones at times. I had to go over scenes and things. She really likes the concept, and she's a fan now. And I've been looking for that for Transformers, because while I have a lot of Transformers stuff and I watch a lot of Transformers things, Ember has not, like, that hasn't clicked for her yet. And so I see something like this, and she already saw the trailer and liked it. So I see something like this and go, yes, here's my chance. I gotta show you why Bumblebee and Optimus rule, and these characters are so fun. So yeah, I nail on the head for Kofi. For me, that's kind of how I'm looking at it too. Another trailer though, while we have to wait on the Penguin trailer, we did get a new Joker trailer, and I'm going to say Joker 2 because I cannot pronounce the actual name of this thing for the life of me. I cannot do it correctly, so I just gave up. Joker 2 has a new trailer. Kofi. There it is. Okay. I knew Kofi could do it so well. Is this your most anticipated movie of the year?
No,
Kofi?
No, it's not. It's not. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, no, something happened. My nephew tried to FaceTime me, screwed everything up. Anyway, so no, this is not my most anticipated film of the year. I do want to see it. I am still somebody who likes Joker a lot more than a lot of you. I've had so many fights in the last few days since this trailer came out of people coming out of the woodwork telling me how much Joker still sucks to them. And I'm like, yo, man, I still love that film. I still like a good descent into madness story, which I think this is. And I like how they're building. I like that this really feels like a part 2 that they're kind of building on, because this guy was such a kind of incel metaphor loner. And what happens when he meets like a woman who's every bit his equal and may actually love him if she's real. He does imagine a lot. He likes to imagine women. So provided that she's real, I like it. And I like how they're using kind of the music angle in this and the kind of productions we're going to get with these very twisted contexts to them. And I like Gaga's Harley Quinn when this trailer, because I was like, I don't know about this. But then when she just says that line, like, come on, baby, let's give the people what they want. And then it just goes into that sizzle reel of all the crazy stuff that's going to happen when these two kind of get unleashed. I think people kind of underestimate. I mean, we look at Joker now from like, what was that? When did that come out? 2019. And like, yeah, we look at like where, society has gone like that. I'm sorry, but I had this fight about Project X when Todd Phillips produced that. Shout out to my old Screen Rant buddies, Ben Kendrick and Rob Keyes, because we had this whole fight that Todd Phillips was cynical and that like youth weren't, he was portraying kids this way. And this was in the 2000s, okay? This was before fentanyl was like all the rage. So like, yeah, Project X now looks tame by those standards. And I think for however cynical and kind of black-hearted he might be, Todd Phillips we've done a good job of living up to the image of his movies. Like, society is more like Joker now than like it was even back then. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how this chapter expands this concept and both takes the meta implications of the real world, but also it feels like it's going to be this kind of almost like a therapy session for us all about our obsession with Joker and Harley and why they resonate with us and like the effect these two characters have together on our collective psyche and like why we idolize them, because that seems to be a big part of this movie. They are like rock stars, right? It's natural born killers, Joker. And so that movie was for my brother's generation, my older brother, Gen X, that was like their whole rebellion movie, even though it was about two serial killers. And it was like, did you guys ever see this movie? I don't think Oliver Stone was trying to do that when he made this. He was talking about America being, that movie's literally like Robert Downey Jr. It's about America being so media obsessed that will turn anybody into a star. And that was back in the 90s. That's not gotten better now. Like, we're worse. So like, yeah, the whole Joker Harley thing, this trailer made me confident that whole obsession with turning these two into rock stars when they're insane and they're killers and they're toxic and like all of that is going to be a good part of it. I want to see. I think it'll piss a lot of people off. It's going to piss a lot of people off because people want the safety of, we want the safety of being able to idolize people like Joker without having to, examine ourselves too hard in the mirror. But I'm going to be here for it. And I think Lady Gaga is going to do another great job because, there's A Star Is Born Lady Gaga. And then there's like House of Gucci Lady Gaga. And I think we're going to be more towards the Star Is Born end of the scale right now. So I'm looking forward to this one. And it looks pretty.
It does look pretty. Now, Janelle, this is your boy. So how are you feeling? Because
shout out Jay Jones.
I'm trying to remember like how you felt about the first one. I can't remember.
Yeah, okay. I actually loved the first one. I think that what's important is to just enjoy content for what it is. Stop trying to make it other things. Like, they are not trying to make this flashy Joker, like mob boss Joker with all his minions are already developed, crime lord who is invincible and isn't gonna, always gonna find a way. Like, this is clearly about like mental health, and it's supposed to be a little closer to reality. And this is not my Joker. Like, this is not the Joker that I like. I like a hot Joker. And I like a Harley Quinn with the Mr. J accent. And, that's just, I like things that are a little bit more removed from reality. This feels like, something like Kofi could say, like, this is kind of a reflection back on society. Like, this type of mental health struggle is out there, and violence is at, kind of peaking, and just, there's a lot of like really dark stuff going on right now in our country and in like politics and with our police, our justice system. Like, this is heavy, right? And this is not my bread and butter. This is not what I like, but I have to give respect on it. I got to throw some respect on it. It looks beautiful. It looks awesome. And they wrote the heck out of the first Joker. So I can't really find any qualms with it. Now, am I really pumped about it? Not like super pumped, but I'm glad to have more content, and I'm glad to have Joker content, and I like a story that's being told in a different way, and I have no problem with that. So, am I pumped about this the way that I am about like Deadpool Wolverine? No. But am I going to watch it? Absolutely. Like, it's Joker. I have to. And it's the same with comics. The more comics I read and the more I become kind of like a comic book reader, the more I understand that each book has its own vision and its own story to tell. And you kind of just got to decide, like, do I like this or not? And am I going to give this a chance or not? And I think to just remain completely open is going to be your best bet with this. So that's how I'm going to treat it.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
just
well said.
end by I'll just end by adding this. I think we do need more of these to kind of break up the comic book movie genre. We just
Yeah.
need more swings like this
I agree.
just to kind of change it up and just to kind of keep the playing field
And to
a
get more
little bit
people
more
on
interesting.
board. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to
So-
just be us like super fans that love like the kapows and the kick booms and the, like
I
it's
do love a
cool
good
to-
kapow.
Yeah, I love a kapow. A blam. I love a blam. But sometimes like it's cool that my 70-year-old parents are like, oh wow, did you watch Joker? I'm like, yeah, but like I can't get them to watch Doctor Who to save my life, like so it's a little closer to reality. It's more of a drama and it will intrigue like people that aren't really in the superhero genre, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I think you guys said it very well. I am mixed, but I am curious. So I just like I was actually about the first one. If I go back and think about that, I was mixed on
same.
it. I had issues, but I'm curious and I will watch it. I also do have
don't
very
think it's
high
getting
hopes for
crazier?
What?
You don't think it's getting crazier out here, Matt?
I'm
so sorry we didn't get to watch it together. I wanted to watch the trailer with you.
This
buddy.
is why. This is why. That is one thing about being here in Indiana. I don't have to have the trailer playing behind me while I'm writing 24/7. That is one of those things that is happening. I know we need to get going here through some things. We got a lot of things to get through. Let me Janelle, there was a gaming has had like we got Borderlands coming up. We just have Fallout, right? So we're having a lot of big franchises and well-known IP coming to movies and TV, and of course Bioshock is one of those. There was an update though at Comic-Con. What are you thinking about this?
Well, in this update, it's basically saying that Netflix's adaptation, and it's a film adaptation, it lost some of its funding. It's not getting as much money going towards it as they originally thought that they would have. So they're wanting to make it a little bit more of an intimate story and less of a big budget, like crazy, all hands on deck, CGI, like all that stuff. So it's going to be a more personalized story. I don't know how I feel about that because this was not a game that I played, but I actually really like the game from watching. I watch streamers play this. So I feel like this has to be a big budget thing. And I think this might be at a massive detriment. And I don't want them to drop the ball on this because this is such a legendary game. Like so many people love it. I don't want it to have like a bad take. So I'm not happy about it. I think that why are they being cheap? They're upping more prices on us as paying, people like subscribing to the service. Why are they, cutting back on this? Like there's so many other things you can cut back on. Like The Crown doesn't need like crazy CGI. I know that's over, but like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of I'm not for it. I'm not happy that they're kicking back budgeting, and I'm glad they're being really upfront about it because I bet you they're kind of pissed off too and they're calling Netflix out.
Yeah, this also does kind of read like a hey, we're putting this out there now so that when it does release and you're like, hey, I thought it was going to be something different. They go, nope. And they point over here and go, see, like we had to work with what we had to work with. I do think this is part of that, not in a cynical way, just like a very like upfront, realistic way. Like if we're having to scale the budget down significantly midway through development, and now we're changing our whole point of view about this story. Yeah, I'm all for them kind of just being upfront with it. There is a part of me that almost wishes like, okay, unless you had just an idea in the back pocket that you were like, well, we could do this instead. And then they were like sold, unless it was something like that. To me, this is scary. Like changing your whole idea midway through and scale and money. That just seems like a recipe for disaster. But I also have high hopes because Bioshock is fantastic. And so I would like to see that come to the screen. All right, we gotta buzz through a couple things here. But one thing I did want to get to is the Kofi got to be at the DC Absolute Power panel over at Comic-Con and got to witness some cool things firsthand. Kofi, what stuck out to you? Because there was like three kind of pretty big announcements. But
Oh,
what
yeah,
was there one in particular that kind
yeah.
of stuck with you?
Yeah, let's run through it real quick. So I did the DC panel. There's actually another one happening in Hall H today. We're called Jim Lee and Friends, but the one that I got to see was the Absolute Power and All In panel, which they announced right before Comic-Con. And basically, we know Absolute Power is the storyline right now where Amanda Waller has stripped the DC heroes of their powers and cut off their routes to any other magical realms, timelines, multiversal realities they can't escape. And they're being hunted by Amazo robots infused with their powers, led by, the Batman robot Failsafe and the Brainiac Queen. So we learned more about what this crossover event is going to be and where it's going to lead. And All In as an initiative was kind of touted, as well as this new Absolute Universe, which is kind of like DC's answer to Marvel's Ultimate Universe. So I really liked kind of hearing from the creative team that came to the stage, including Mark Waid, Joshua Williamson, Dan Mora, Daniel Sampere. Daniel, what is this music? Oh my God, comic book. Our site is so wild, bro. Anyway,
What happened?
so
Okay.
they started playing some weird song. Like I was just trying to look over my my post for Absolute Power. Okay, so the long short is, first of all, this is a great creative team, but we're going to be getting some big things. We're going to get a Justice League Unlimited series, which is going. I know Matt was like murking out about that. It's going to be great. We're going to get that, and so that's going to be done by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora. Dan Mora. I feel like I'm mispronouncing his name all the time.
More, yeah, just more.
By the way, Dan Mora. By the way, I told Matt I embarrassed myself in front of all these DC artists and creators. They had a booth on preview night, and I went in to try to express how much we love them on this show. And I was just talking up a big storm like a big guy, all confident. And finally, Tom Taylor looked forward and was like, "Mate, your badge is backwards. We have no idea who you are." And I was just like, "Oh, man."
God, amazing.
So, yeah. So then I ran away like Napoleon Dynamite, lest I embarrass our show. And so, yeah, that was me at Comic-Con in a nutshell. So Justice League Unlimited 1, they're bringing back the Watchtower. It's going to be like the cartoon show. They're like, Mark Waid took names. He was like, everybody shout out a hero's name. Yes, they're in it. Yes, you get a character. No Jonah Hex. That was the only thing. No Jonah Hex. I don't know what the beef is there. But for me and Matt, I know that the highlight was kind of getting to see what we have planned for the DC's. I just blanked. Absolute Universe. So yeah, we got artwork and first looks at Absolute Superman, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and then the reveal that we're getting Absolute Flash as well from Jeff Lemire and who did I say? Nick Robles will be doing Absolute. In the Absolute Universe, kind of looks like it's going to be our next House of X on this podcast. Like, we're going to be deep into this because they are doing some, bold reinventions of the DC Trinity. Scott Snyder, of Batman fame, is back and kind of back in the DC fold and leading that initiative. And I sent Matt the photos, and we'll try to cut them up, and I'm sure they're out there already. But the character designs were crazy. There is crazy work being done. So the goal, Scott Snyder said, is we're getting the core of these characters wrapped in completely new exteriors. So Bruce Wayne Batman is still Bruce Wayne Batman, but in the drawings of this, he's a 6'2" or 6'5" construction worker / city engineer who's buff as barrel-chested buff construction worker guy. Like, I was just watching a video of construction workers trying to bend bars against bodybuilders, and the construction workers washed them. This big barrel-chested dude, and so that's who our Bruce Wayne is. In his bat suit, he's 7 feet tall. So, this is the most swole Batman we've ever gotten. Superman's going to be kind of coming from a place where he didn't land in Kansas and have the all-American kind of great white guy life. He actually landed, and we don't know the details, but things did not go well for him as an alien invader. And so he's a very angrier, darker, long-haired, goth, emo kind of Superman that we're going to get. And Wonder Woman is straight up from hell. They didn't come out and say it, but she's powered by, she's spent time being raised by Hades in the underworld, hanging out with Cerebus. She rides a black skeleton horse, Pegasus horse. And it looks like Wonder Woman if Wonder Woman were raised by Ares and Hades and all the bad guys.
Sounds
and so like
dope.
her coming to man's world. Oh, it does. It sounds so good. I'm excited about that one. I think it's Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman, absolute Wonder Woman. And yeah, so she's coming to man's world, but this is not necessarily like the peaceful ambassador Diana, I have love for everybody that we're going to get. And so they said this interesting thing about how we're going to build this is that these three heroes are going to all start out in a world where there aren't really like heroes standing up. So they're each going to be on their own at first. And they're all socially maladjusted. They're not going to like meet each other and be like super friends because they're all coming from very weird, crazy, extreme backgrounds. So yeah, mostly superheroes is cracking me up in the comments. My girl will leave me for that Superman. Yeah, we all are about to be there. This is going to be like the hot Superman for Janelle. Janelle's already going to be like looking at her husband, sizing him up, and probably getting like that long haired because he has the long haired, like the wig. Mark my words. In a year, mark my words, you and your husband will be absolute versions of these DC characters. He's either getting Batman, Superman, whatever you like best. And
that's the next cosplay right there.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I will be DC absolute Gleek.
I've done this when you guys are going to respond to something, and I feel like I know Janelle will love this because we're going to be going deep into these when they come out.
I'm
We're going to be taking it. So
very much.
Yeah.
Well, I know we gotta take a break here. So let's take a break. Let's cut out for a minute. But that's awesome. I love it. I'm so excited. I should also talk about this for
me
2
too.
hours if we could. Let's take a break and then we'll get into the comics and some other fun stuff, Comic-Con stuff when we get back.
We're back. Matt's muted.
There we go.
So
welcome back. You missed my song. I was singing a song. I was singing a fun little song. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. That is actually a perfect segue. So we were just talking about Absolute, DC Absolute, and All In, and everything that's happening there. And that's a perfect segue to talk about some comics. And this wasn't planned actually, but DC Comics, because a lot's been going on. And of course, we are covering as many comics as we can on the pull list every Wednesday, which you should absolutely check out next time you are able to listen to a podcast. But there was one that I read this week and I went, okay, I need to know what Kofi and Janelle think, because we got all the thoughts and the updated things on Absolute Power. And the newest tie-in, which is actually one part of a 3-issue series, is Absolute Power Origins. And this is all about Amanda Waller. And for anyone who's listened to the show, knows that like I've been on a little bit of a little burnout on Waller and the Suicide Squad and just everything there. But Absolute Power has been such a breath of fresh air for me. And then I read this issue and I just really want to know what you guys think. Janelle, you caught up on Absolute Power last time around and came away really jazzed about that. I'm not exactly sure how much, like, other than like outside of the movies, how much are you like, did you know about Waller and stuff, and how did this issue hit you?
I knew nothing about Waller. Like, really, I knew nothing about her backstory. I didn't even know she was a mom. Like, I knew nothing at all. So this was actually quite a treat for me I love a backstory. I love character breakdowns. I love knowing why people are the way that they are and what led them to the version that I know them of. Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love it in shows. People call them slow episodes, character building episodes. I love them. So this was really, really cool and fun for me to see. I definitely hate her way less, because I feel like she is justified in some ways, and I'm very happy with the way that they kind of broke that down. I feel like it was a very clear story from start to finish. I understood, I followed what was going on. I didn't know exactly what she was up to. I knew she was scheming in some way, but it was still not a big twist, but it was enough for me to go, oh wow, dang, she just did the thing. It's not a kapow comic book, as we were talking about earlier. It's not a blam, but that's okay with me, because I like what it is and I appreciate it for what it is. Now, does it hold up to the other ones that I read? No, not even close, because there's like a bajillion characters in them, and these are heroes doing hero things, jumping around, killing people and stuff. So not everybody kills them, but this is just it's kind of like the Joker film that we just touched on. It's a different take, different perspective. And I like it for what it is. And I wasn't trying to make it be anything other than what it was. And I enjoyed it.
All right, Kofi. And Andrew, yes. There has not been a lot of dives into Amanda Waller's past. So this was really like a first look into like what got her into that position to be kind of this person who was working shadow government, all that stuff. Kofi, how did you feel about this?
Oh, I'm going to be honest. I did not get to read. I'm at Comic-Con, but I have not read a single comic this week.
No, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It's also actually very apt for Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But Bridewood knows me, because that's where I'm going first. I know that James Tynion has dropped Nice House by the Sea. I'm going to be in on that. And when we get back next week, baby, I'll be right back. I'm going to be right back into it. So yeah, I'm starting to browse comics this week, because I was traveling and getting into Comic-Con when in my usual reading days. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this Amanda Waller book. It's pretty dense.
Yeah, and that I came away. John Ridley wrote this, by the way. If you've read some of his Batman stuff, he likes to get into the character space, right? It's actually a perfect marriage for me with like his writing style and someone like Waller, who is not going to be throwing down. She's not throwing fists with people and stuff. This is a very much I agree with Janelle's sentiments in a way. I came away with like more empathy for the character, and how, because what I love is that she doesn't actually make this like hard pivot. A lot of times when we get like an origin story, it's like this one devastating thing happens, and then like someone completely flips like all of their ideals and everything that like
that's Marvel, brother,
and their personality. And well, so like, yeah, like everything changes from that point on, and then they go in this direction. And what I loved here is that we don't do that. It's established through dialogue and things that like Waller already thought these things. Her point of view never actually changes. It's just the pressure to take action changes. The things that around her and then surround her of like her circumstances and things that are done by other people and not her, they change and they necessitate action. And that's what changes. And then you just see her carry out all the stuff that she kind of already thought. She just now has resources and people that she can manipulate to do that. And so that's what I really loved about this. It was very logical in the way. Now, granted, there is a little bit of suspension of disbelief, right? Like, what the first thing you go do is go to manipulate a congressman, not unless you're Amanda Waller. So yes, I get that for 9 out of 10 people, this wouldn't be the jump they make, but I still, as far
I
as
get
comics
it.
and storytelling go, I thought it was a good jump. I thought it was a logical jump. So I really liked this issue a lot. And so this whole event is just really making me have to eat a bunch of Amanda Waller crow. It's what this is really about.
You know what's weird is maybe it's just proximity bias, but she's Sister Sage from The Boys. Like, kind of what this issue kind of makes me feel like is just she's smart, and she's smart and she has this view, but it's the people who surround her and the context that surrounds her that like kind of secretly drives her nuts. And just watching all these things around her, and like, that's the Amanda Waller that I love. Is I like the villain. I like her as the character. I love anti-heroes or villains who are in their own heads trying to put a chaotic world into sensible order, because that's the thin line between Batman and Waller, which is why I love Batman and Waller scenes the most. They're so good together because it's two people with the same kind of A-type personality obsession, but two thin little lines of morality that kind of separate them. Batman cares about how the mission gets done. Amanda Waller doesn't. She just cares about the end. And so this was a good book.
And this issue makes you put that in the context. And the fact that it's not a one shot is also, I think, really great. Like,
it's not?
We're actually getting multiple issues of this. No, we're getting multiple issues of not an ongoing. It's still a miniseries. It's like 3 or 4 issues, but we're getting more of this, and we're getting to see how it all plays out. And so that is also what made me like really interested. So, very much on that bandwagon. And it's funny that Brywood brings up Zatana. It's almost like you read our layout, because the next book we're talking about is Zatana, Bring Down the House. So Janelle, I know you hadn't had a chance to me and Kofi read the first issue on Pull List, which you can go check out that review there as well. But for this issue, did you read the first issue, or did you just jump in with issue 2?
I just jumped in on issue 2. I did it on purpose, though, because I kind of wanted to read it. And if I couldn't understand what was going on, then I was going to go ahead and do the first one. But I did understand. I totally understood what was happening. I was not lost. At the very beginning, I was kind of like, wait, what? But it was clear, like, she is having some childhood trauma. She doesn't know she has powers. I'm getting it. Like, daddy issues, the whole shebang. And I am here for it, because I want to know. I can't believe that you're already in issue 2 and she still doesn't have her powers. That's interesting to me. Like, we're still not progressing with her stuff. But I'm trusting the process. I think that it's actually going to turn out to be pretty great. And I did feel like it was succinct, like I could understand what was happening. And it didn't feel like a number 1, because number 1 would obviously need to hook you a little bit more. But the fact that there wasn't a lot of action or anything, or I don't know clear villain, I don't know clear, like, I'm understanding there's demons, but I don't have like a clear idea of what is happening. I'm surprised that we don't know that yet in book 2.
Yeah, I will agree with you, I think, because I really like the first issue a lot, and I like this issue too.
Yeah.
But I will say that there isn't as clear a hook moving into the next one here as there was for me in that first one. And so I do kind of love this little mini Zatanna renaissance we're getting, because between like her kicking ass and Superman and and then having this, I love that. Like, let's put Zatanna out there more, because she's an awesome character, and I love that we're actually seeing her. You know, there are some action scenes in this. Again, it's mostly her, like, you know, trying to not be burnt alive in a fire and stuff. But like, I like that we're putting her in more action oriented stories though, as opposed to just like, you know, having the fix it button with her being able to just, you know, say a word backwards and things change. That's really cool. But like, I like this too. It's a good balance. All right. So lastly, but not least, it's Matt's agenda time. I need a jingle Really need a jingle. Okay, so I will work on that. But one of the things that Kofi can attest to is when you're at San Diego Comic-Con, there are tons of exclusives all around. There's all kinds of things you can buy. You can leave with all kinds of really hard to get limited swag. And
by the way, buddy, Matt, I forgot to tell you, I have an entire video show of your wrestling guys. I forgot to send them off to you yesterday, so I'm going to do it right here. But yeah, I have a whole little sexy video segment where I shot all those wrestling displays for you because there are some crazy ones, and you're going to be real excited.
Yeah.
So I have that for you after this. Yeah. No, I did it. He asked me to do it, and then I did the whole thing, and then I forgot to send him off to him, and I was just like, oh my god. But I shot oh yeah, I went in there like I was like freaking Ridley Scott, and I got you those displays, the wrestling toy displays. I was murking out. There's stuff from WWF history in there that it's crazy. So I'll send that to you right after this.
Yes. Oh, and that will be coming to Comic Book sooner than later. That's amazing. Yes, Mattel had some amazing things to show, and it's actually perfect segue there because I also have some other things from Mattel to show off. If you were at the show, you can actually pick up a few of these things. One of which, going off of the perfect segue that Kofi gave, hey, ho ho, Shawn Michaels. It is a WrestleMania.
I stole
San Diego
that
Comic-Con exclusive. Yeah, buddy. It's in the awesome packaging. It's actually got one of the things I love about the Mattel figures, and when they really kind of go in right now, you can actually see a great Rhea Ripley Ultimate Edition figure at the booth. Yeah, that looks amazing.
I filmed that as a surprise for you. The Monday Night Raw. She's in the belt.
Yeah,
I got it all
fantastic.
close up for you. And the Shawn Michaels on the zip line. Wow, they're ruining all my surprises. I have all this in surprise video for you, buddy.
So the WrestleMania 12 recreation there, the Iron Man match is in that figure, and like Kofi said, actually it's perfect. It comes with the zip line. You can recreate kind of one of many famous moments from that match, and that is actually available at the show, and you can also order it through Mattel, I believe Mattel Creations as well. Another thing I wanted to shout out is since we've been talking a lot about Batman, it's actually amazing. So it is a Little People 85th anniversary Batman set. So you actually get one from all the different movies. So as you can see, let me aim down there.
Cute.
Isn't that cute? And my boy George Clooney right there. I'm just saying, I still rep him as my favorite Bruce Wayne. Come at me. My favorite. He is Bruce Wayne. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Stop it. Stop it.
So that is at the booth, and they are adorable. It's true. And last but not least, I want to shout out for the Monster High fans, Ghoulia Yelps. There is a sick limited Ghoulia Yelps figure, and okay, this is just the box art. All right, this is insane. This is just the box art. The box art looks phenomenal. And then once you actually get the figure out and everything, it comes out of the, let me turn it around here for all the peoples to seize. Ta-da! Look at that. She is fantastic. If you're a Monster High fan, you're gonna love it anyway because it's Ghoulia Yelps. But if you're just even a fan of just cool looking figures, that is sick. So that is also at the show as well. There are also several other things. The mini Casa Dojo house from Barbie is there. You can probably see that there as well. So there's a ton of things you should go take a look around Comic-Con for. All right, let me move into, I will not be here next week. Because I will be covering Gen Con, which is local here in Indy. So, number one, kudos to everyone. You won't have to put up with me next week. You'll get a break. But then also, I will be at the con covering a bunch of different games. Just wanted to give a shout out to some of them. Mandalorian Adventures. We actually talked about this on the show, I think a month ago, kind of gave a preview, but I will have some thoughts on that, some interviews around that. Plaid Hat's Wandering Galaxy, which is on Kickstarter right now. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang's Destiny. That's a big one from the op that is I'm very eager to get hands on with. Flickering Stars is a space game that also has you literally football, like like flick football mechanic in it, and you're actually trying to hit the other base, but it's also like this like strategy game. That sounds really interesting. Comic Hunters is a game that literally has you creating comics. It's a board game that has you creating comics. It feels like right up our alley. And it's been available internationally for years, and now it's finally coming over to America. And it's got Marvel support. So I will be having some interview time with that and some demo time with that. Attack on Titan, as part of the UVS card system. They're debuting their set there. Also a new Star Trek game, and Tekken is also coming to that line. So hopefully to get some time with that. So all of that plus all of the other fun things that are planned in store for that. So look out for that coverage on here in the future and on Comic Book as well. All right, to round up that, I have 2 quick reviews. One, I'm going to keep in the Star Wars. We haven't really talked a lot of Star Wars this show, and so hey, it's fitting that we talk Star Wars now. So Star Wars Bounty Hunters is a new card game that, as its name implies, has you playing all of the bounty hunters. So you'll be playing a lot of characters. Kofi actually probably really dig the character assortment in this, because we got a lot of Rebels characters in here, a lot of stuff pulled from the comics universe and stuff. It's not just the same old characters that you'll be going at. Obviously, Grogu is in the game, of course, because it's Grogu. But you'll actually be drawing cards. What? Do you don't like Grogu?
Overgrown.
How do you not like Grogu?
Oh my gosh.
So we can't go down that. We can't go down that rabbit hole. So the game has you playing bounty hunters, and you're essentially trying to build up enough attack value to take those targets down. And so that's pretty straightforward. And you have to essentially draft a mix of droids and bounty hunters to assemble enough of these 3 different number counts to take down a foe. That's pretty straightforward and simple. The strategy comes into it that, number one, you can have multiple targets, and you can be drawing those throughout the game. And so you're trying to assemble the first to like so many, you're trying to take down the first to 4 people who you've captured. You then get 2 extra turns, and then that's the end of the game. And then whoever has the most points, right? Pretty simple. But the thing comes at it, you only get 1 action per turn. So you're going to literally take one of the cards you drew, and then you're going to pass your whole hand over to the next person. And that person now gets yours plus a new card. And so you never actually hang on to a lot of cards. You're playing the card that turn, and then you get a whole mix of new cards the next turn. You might see some of yours back, but you might not. So that's constantly changing. And then also, while bounty hunters are free, and you can have as many bounty hunters as you want to go after your targets, they all deduct points at the end of the game. So there's a legit real penalty there, because yes, you could take them, you could get to 4 pretty quick, but then you've now minus 20 points or more from your score at the end. Droids cost nothing at the end of the game, but they cost actual credits to buy. So then you're having to earn money while you're doing all this, get rid of some cards, get some credits, maybe get those. So there's some strategy there between playing the long game or playing the short game, but the other person is also moving at their own pace. So there's a lot of like on the spot, and you're playing these things, by the way, these turns simultaneously. So the game kind of throws a lot of stuff to keep track of at you in your given turn, which is great if it keeps you occupied and you don't feel like there's a lot of downtime. But then also, once you start really digging around at the end of it all, it's the replay value is kind of mixed. Like, you know, I think it's a perfect game for someone who is not super like familiar like with the hobby, or even like if they're just a really big Star Wars fan. I think it would be something you could probably teach them relatively quickly, as long as you know how to play first. But after like 3 or 4 plays, I don't know how much lasting effect this game will have. So and the artwork is really like in this like chibi animated style, which I adore, but it's going to be hit and miss with some fans. The other game I wanted to bring up would be Catan Starfarer's Duel. This game is very much like of the Catan style of games, but it's very much like a ship versus ship, not combat. There is combat, you're taking on pirates and things, but it's really like who can mine the most resources and who can build their ship the most. That's really kind of what this game comes down to. And it takes a long time. This game says, I think it says like it'll play in like 45 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes. I think our first play of this game, we sat there for 3.5 hours, and I felt like it was going to last 3.5 hours more. I was very like, okay, I don't know how much more energy I'm going to give to this game. Essentially, you're like able to max out your ship. You're able to build more modules and scan more things as you make it through the cosmos. But that process is not very it's not very interesting, and so it's probably as interesting as you hear me talk about it, but like it's not very interesting. And so after a long time of just literally just building, collecting more rocks, collecting more things, upgrading your ship a little bit more, it's just like the pacing is, it's just really off, unfortunately. So I dug some concepts of the game. The board is super cool because you actually get your own literal like cardboard ship that you can add pieces to and upgrade stuff. That's really cool. The presentation is awesome. But it's just for a 1v1 game, there's just other things I'd rather be sinking my time into, and the pacing is just off. That time devoting 3+ hours is not gonna do it for me. So that is my unfortunate review on that. But hey, someone else might dig it, and that's awesome. So that is my agenda for this week. Obviously, Kofi's gonna jump back into all the Comic-Con insanity, and me and Janelle will be jumping on here. Hopefully we'll all be getting together next week to maybe cover some of the things that happened.
Yep.
And because we still got big presentations coming up. Kofi, what's on your docket for the rest of this week?
Well, we got, like I said, today we have the Rings of Power, Jim Lee and friends. Alien Romulus will be also doing a big panel. Harley Quinn will be kind of making a debut. We got a bunch of people coming to the comic book studios today, from the Rings of Power, from Alien Romulus, Snowpiercer, Walking Dead people, and a whole lot more. So we're going to be busy all day. And then tomorrow is nothing really. It's kind of an easy day. At night, they're doing some like open benefit with this up and coming indie studio called Marvel, which they are going to do a little thing in Hall H. I don't know. So, yeah. And there's also kind of rumors that, about what's going to be going down in the streets. Marvel might be having a secret party. I don't know. We're just going to see. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening out here. So, yeah, we'll be doing a Monday morning quarterback when I'm home and we can all relax a little bit. Well, not me, but you guys can relax a little bit, and we'll talk about what happened at Comic-Con and all the Marvel of it all. For live updates, be sure to stay tuned to Phase Zero, on the other feed of the comic book podcast feeds, because they're going to have interviews and Hall H reactions and all that stuff right up to the minute. We're going to let all this Deadpool and Hall H and all the things that Feige said simmer in our brains for a minute, and then we'll talk about that and so much more. So stay tuned to Comic Book for Comic-Con coverage. I'll be out here in the streets.
And
that's it. That's the show. That's it. Yeah.
What?
That's it.
What?
I was just saying.
We got to plug the other shows.
Like,
we got like 9 shows.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, we do. We have so many shows.
Yeah, we got Anime Initiative that you can.
Matt's been. Yeah, wait. I want to give you a shout out, buddy. Like last few weeks, Matt has been all over the place. Matt has been keeping this whole thing afloat and hopping on a lot of shows and just kicking ass, man. Because I've had to run around and scramble and do a million things, and so shout out to you, buddy, for keeping these plates spinning.
No, well, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's awesome. It's easy when you have a team like this. When you got a trio like this, man. Look at that. Kills.
Yeah,
buddy.
It's been fun jumping on other shows too.
Yeah, Janelle's been all over the place too. You've been in the Star Wars universe, and
we gotta do House of the Dragon on Monday. That's right.
Yeah.
We got a busy Monday. Oh my god. So yeah. So shout out Comic Book Nation. We'll be doing House of the Dragon recaps, Comic-Con recaps. We're doing comics on the pull list, anime, quick save for gaming, and then before you know it, we'll be back to another live show. So here we go.
Peace, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Comic-Con. Tell us what you love about it most on the Twitters and the socials and everything. And until next week, peace. Deuces.